Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about volunteer work. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, in order to get resume experience for an aspiring developer, do you think it would be effective to attempt to volunteer at a software company? The idea would to do simple things they needed involving code. Do you think a software company would be interested in such a thing? No, I don't think that they would be even the slightest bit interested on average, because you're basically an intern. It's just that you might be working completely free, and in many parts of the world, especially, I mean, even here in Sweden, an internship does not necessarily mean that you get paid. In actuality, it's usually the norm that you don't get paid. It might be, of course, different in other parts of the world where you might be paid some token salary. But even if you completely remove the salary factor, you should know that unless the company has a structure for working with interns or something very specific in mind, something usually very low key or low risk, they're not going to waste time on you. Most companies don't actually waste time on interns because you are, for all intents and purposes, you may think that you have a value, and I certainly will tell you that to a point you would have value, but you're simply not worth the investment for most companies. That's the bottom line. Most companies want to, they have all these different developers and product owners and people who are professionally trained who are producing money for the company, and they don't want these people to be distracted by helping someone out that isn't in that can't carry their own weight, and an intern cannot carry his or her own weight. In most cases, they do need some type of assistance. Now, what the company is going to do is that they're going to make a value analysis or a cost-benefit ratio analysis, and they're going to look at, okay, is there some benefit for us to have an intern? And if there is some benefit, they feel like, yeah, there are these really minor tasks that we could have some person with almost no training do for us, and it's going to be mostly grunt work that has no real value. That's what you hire an intern to do, unless of course you have a very specific project that is fairly low stake or something semi-valuable that you want to get done, and you're not really willing to invest in it enough so that you take the full-time developers to do that work. That's also the case where you're going to do this. But for code, this is actually it's actually very difficult in many cases. Even if you were to volunteer, it doesn't really matter because you're still going to steal the thing that they don't want to give you, and that is time. Time is money, and time is more valuable to the company in terms of getting their developers and their different full-time hires to focus on the work that they do. Because the thing is, guys, you're always in delivery mode practically in every single company. You cannot produce fast enough. You will never be able to produce fast enough. So you have a backlog that is usually fairly substantial. There's no slack time. You have to create a budget of time in order to get anything done whatsoever. And as you can imagine, having someone who has no real experience doing programming at a professional level and then train, like, because that's the thing, you're gonna have to have some type of training, you're gonna have some type of onboarding process, and that's going to be it's because it's the same thing. Like, the difference between an intern and a junior developer is practically nothing. You're still investing in this person in a way which requires you to take time away from somebody else. As I said, unless you do have something very specific which is super isolated where you can just say, hey, I throw this product on you, you solve it. That's what most companies will hire an intern to do. And the other ones are the ones who are actually trying to recruit people, or they have a structure and a process for it. But I'm just going to be honest with you. Most companies are not doing that thing. It's usually this thing that you find in a few companies, but it's not going to be the norm. So what I want you to take away from this is that I don't think that you volunteering for. I mean, you can of course reach out. Just reach out to companies and see what the response is going to be. My guess is that you're not going to get all that much interest because it's basically the same thing. I would say in many cases it's worse to try to get to volunteer or to be a intern in a company than it is to be a junior developer, because when you're hiring a junior developer, at the very least you're looking for someone who you are who the company is you're actually investing in this person with the ambition of hiring them, like they're being trained. You're making a bet on this individual. But an intern or a volunteer is basically just another, well, it's just another time waster for most companies, because as I said, unless you can get something that is really low effort to give to the intern or to the volunteer, it's just not going to be worth your time. A good example of where you can get really exploited as a volunteer or as an intern, and this is probably the thing that and I've seen this many times before, is to do QA work. You might find companies who will basically just because that's the beautiful part about being a QA or being just a tester. If you do it at the lowest level, literally a monkey can do it, because all you're really going to do is to sit and click around on the interface and get like a sheet of paper saying, hey, you're going to test all these things every time somebody ships something. Congratulations, you're a human doing an automatable process, and there's almost no time investment in you. That is the sort of thing that you might find yourself doing if the company has well, if they're basically trying to exploit you. And that's not something that's going to give you any value on your CV, and it's not going to help you learn anything about coding. Anything related to coding, if you can find it and they're willing to give you some real work to do, try it out. This is a good, if you can make this work, go for it. But I'm just warning you, from your perspective it might be that you're giving some type of value to the company, but for most companies this is not something they're most of the time going to be interested in, because the value that you are you're providing is so low that it's actually more likely that it's going to cost them more than it's going to give them. Have a great day.